Hey friends, Ash here with Gents. Today coming at you guys with my top 10 cheapy fragrances for life. This is a tag video. I was tagged by Josh at Scents. Link in the description to his channel. Make sure to check him out. Basically, these are the 10 fragrances I would keep if I could only keep 10, but they have to be cheap. So I went into this thinking of picking up some fragrances for spring and summer, some really versatile ones, some for fall and winter, some for daytime, some for nighttime, you know the drill. So with this little gathering of fragrances that I have here that I'm gonna go over with you guys today, I think I've got pretty much all my bases covered. Each one of these fragrances is going to be very inexpensive. Typically you can pick these up for under 30 bucks online. We've got a lot to talk about today, so let's jump into this and check out my 10 cheap fragrances for life. I'm going to go ahead and tag some people right at the beginning of the video here to do this as well. I'm going to tag 5280 Scents and Carolina Fragrance Reviews, links in the description to those guys. And first off, an honorable mention, this one right here, Guerlain L'Homme Ideal Cologne. This has made countless lists on my channel over the past, especially cheap lists. This one for the longest time you could pick up for like 20 bucks, but it's been discontinued and I've noticed that the price, at least as of this video, has been going up at discounters. So it's no longer the cheapie that it once was. This one has been replaced by Guerlain L'Homme Ideal Cool, and that one I don't like as much as this one. I've talked about that a few times on the channel. I wanted to bring this one up because this one would have made the list very comfortably, very easily, if it was as affordable as it used to be. Now, a lot of these fragrances in this video today are going to be fragrances that you have seen on this channel before, which makes sense. I've done a bunch of different cheap lists over the years. I've covered a lot of cheap fragrances in reviews. So if you've watched this channel for a long time, most of these fragrances you will have seen at one point or another. No real way for me to get around that, so let's just jump right into this. First off, Encre Noir Sport from Lalique. And really, any of the fragrances in the Encre Noir line can't go wrong with. The original Encre Noir, this one, or Encre Noir à l'Extrême, any of those would be a great pick for a list like this one. But for me, I think Encre Noir Sport fills the most needs. This one has vetiver and cypress, which it has in common with the original Encre Noir, but this one also has bergamot and some watery notes in there as well. This one also has grapefruit, so kind of that classic citrus combo, grapefruit, bergamot working in together in the top of this fragrance right here. It's gonna share a lot with the original Encre Noir, that woody nature, the heavy cypress and vetiver, though it's not quite as dark or rooty as the original Encre Noir is. This one, being a sport fragrance, is going to give you a little more versatility. And that is where the citrus and the water notes come into play here. It's more wearable in more situations. Springtime, yeah. Fall time, yeah. Summertime, yeah, you could pull it off then. And winter, yeah, if you wanted to. For me, the original Lalique Encre Noir is the first fragrance that comes to my mind when I think of cheap fragrance that smells like it could potentially be niche. It really does smell so much more expensive than it costs from discounters, and this one is right there with it. Awesome smelling fragrance, Encre Noir Sport. The next fragrance is also from a line that is very inexpensive at discounters. It's this one right here, Salvatore Ferragamo Uomo Signature. This one has tonka, coffee, leather, cinnamon, and cardamom. So this one is going to be a very rich, sweet, warm fragrance, better suited for fall and winter. And you can kind of guess by the bottle design here, that dark black bottle design, that it's going to be more of a nighttime fragrance, but you can pull it off during the day just as well, but don't wear it if the temperature is creeping up a bit. This one can come across a little bit cloying in high heat. That one's really sexy. It's got that sweet spiciness going on with the cinnamon and cardamom that so many people like in their fall and wintertime fragrances. The coffee here is tempered by the tonka in the fragrance, so it's more of a sweet coffee. Later on in this list, there's going to be a fragrance that has more of a roasted coffee, so I've kind of got two different versions of coffee in this list. And the leather in Uomo Signature, not at all animalic. Again, this is more sweet, spicy than it is harsh, manly. Great fragrance, low price, good performance, Uomo signature, super solid. Next up is a fragrance from the house of Azzaro, and originally I was going to go with Azzaro Pour Homme, which is also great, classic barbershop fragrance, but I decided to go with something that's going to give me blue fragrance versatility. Basically one of those dumb reach fragrances that you can wear in pretty much any situation and it's going to work. Ginger Lover, which I reviewed not that long ago. Surprise of the century, Ginger Lover has ginger as one of the main notes in the fragrance. It's also got lime, vetiver, cardamom, and tonka as some of the other notes. As I mentioned, this is a blue style fragrance. Basically that means it's mass appealing, people pleasing, compliment pulling, and very versatile. The type of fragrance that you could wear on a date or out with your friends or out on the town or to the office or whatever. This can do it. It focuses obviously on ginger. There's a bit of citrus in the opening as well, the lime, so you have that classic effervescent sparkling ginger and citrus combination. This one focuses more on the ginger than most other blue fragrances. A lot of other blue fragrances will start going its own direction as it dries down, maybe incense or amberwood or whatever, depends on the fragrance. This one stays more with the ginger. Basically, it drags out that effervescent, sweet, sparkling ginger for as long as possible. For 26 bucks, that's around what it goes for online right now. I think it's a great deal, and the performance there is surprisingly very good. Next up, the other fragrance that features coffee, Halloween Man X. This is one that I fell in love with the first time I smelled it. Still really like it. Cinnamon, leather, coffee, tonka, whiskey. Some of the notes in this fragrance, and actually they call it the Blackjack Accord in this fragrance if you want to be specific, and that's going to be that leather, the whiskey, and the coffee kind of all working together. They call it officially the Blackjack Accord of Halloween Man X. And the coffee here in Halloween Man X comes across much more like a roasted coffee than it does in Uomo Signature. In the Ferragamo, as I mentioned, much sweeter. Here, more roasted. Quality on this fragrance, surprisingly high for the price. Easily my favorite from the Halloween Man line, although the original Halloween Man also very solid. This one, awesome. Awesome fall time, wintertime fragrance. And that one is more of a nighttime fragrance than daytime fragrance for me personally. From there, let's go to this one. Banana Republic 78 Vintage Green. This was one of the first releases in the Icon collection from Banana Republic. I believe there were 5 initially in the Icon line, and this one is my favorite of the bunch. And the name on this one really tells you what you're getting. It's green. It's got green notes. It's got fig. It's got green tea. It's got bergamot. It has orange. It's a great daytime, springtime, fresh, refreshing, uplifting sort of fragrance. It's clean, it's sweet, it's not cloying, the performance is decent. It's a great fragrance for casual wear in spring or summertime. The price on it is right, the presentation not too bad, all things considered. It is a Banana Republic fragrance. The lid is actually heavier than you would imagine, but that doesn't really matter. The Icon line does have some other solid fragrances as well, but this one for me is the standout of the bunch. If I could keep only one, it would be this one. From there, let's go to another blue fragrance. This one is really just trying to fill in that whole extreme versatility niche in my 10 fragrances, and it's this one right here, Coach for Men. Pear, kumquat, bergamot, suede, and ambergris, or ambroxan, some of the notes in this fragrance, and it's got that tag that just kind of flops around. This one, very much that shower gel type of fragrance. You know, clean, a little sweet, smells like you got out of a shower and you're just really clean and ready to take on the day. That's the sort of scent that this is. With that comes extreme versatility. Like I mentioned, basically any situation you can think of, you can wear this in. There are countless blue fragrances out there. I'm not telling you guys that Coach for Men is the best blue fragrance on the market or anything like that, but for the price, it's a great bang for your buck sort of scent. It does pull compliments. It is, as I mentioned, easy to wear, very versatile, people pleasing. It does all those things. It checks all those blue fragrance boxes. That's what it is. Is it extremely unique, even with fragrance notes like kumquat? No, not really, but it does smell pleasant. Of the bunch that I've got here today, that one probably gonna be the one that's derided the most as being boring or safe or generic, And I have to agree, out of all the fragrances here, it probably is. But out of all the fragrances here, one of the easiest ones to wear too. And after that, let's go to this one, Him by Hane Mori. This one's very, very inexpensive and actually smells quite similar to Gucci Pour Homme 2, which is discontinued and getting harder and harder and harder to find. This one is going to smell quite similar to that one, but at a fraction of the price. It has violet leaf, tonka, cedar, cinnamon, and amber, some of the notes in the fragrance. And while it doesn't share the tea note that Gucci Pour Homme 2 is most well known for, if you're very familiar with the Gucci, when you spray this one on, you'll immediately be like, oh, yeah, I get the similarity. The performance for me, not amazing, but the fragrance really is when you consider the price, under 20 bones for a 50 ml size bottle. This one is great for casual wear. You could also wear it formally, daytime, nighttime, and for me, best in spring or fall, your more neutral weather situations. From there, let's go to a fragrance from Ferrari, the favorite house of a gentleman's journey, the Chadster. This fragrance is pure lavender, which is actually a fragrance that he doesn't like a huge amount. It's got lavender, sage, cashmere wood, and vanilla as some of the notes in the fragrance, and this one really is centered on lavender. A sweet, fresh lavender. There's a fuzzy cashmere wood note in this fragrance, which has become more popular over the last few years, and there's also a touch of spice from cardamom in pure lavender as well. Really, the coloration here does a good job of relaying how this one smells. Just a clean, uplifting lavender. And it actually reminds me a bit of Lavenden. Back when I was trying to figure out how to make my own fragrances and messing around with different essential oils and aroma chemicals and things like that, I had Lavenden. And this, at least in the initial opening, reminds me a little bit of how that smells. Very uplifting to me. Awesome springtime fragrance, one that can be worn in lots of different situations, and the price very low. Pure lavender, for me, one of the more overlooked fragrances from Ferrari. But if you don't like lavender, if you don't like cashmere wood, probably not gonna like this. From there, let's go to John Varvatos, who recently applied for bankruptcy. This one is my favorite from the John Varvatos line. Vintage. It's got rhubarb, balsam fir, it has tonka, tobacco, of course, and suede leather as well. This one smells fantastic. Fantastic to me. Sweet tobacco just always does it for me. I love sweet tobacco fragrances. The big knock on Varvatos scents is usually their performance. It's not great on most of the fragrances that they released. This one, for me, maybe average. It's passable. The quality here is very high, and should the Varvatos fragrances ever go missing, ever be completely discontinued, I should say, this one I imagine would command a high premium once the stock ran dry. This is a fragrance that I do have a backup bottle of, just because I love it so much. Fall time, winter time, daytime, nighttime, anytime is the right time for Varvatos Vintage. Yeah, that was kind of weird, but Varvatos Vintage, really nice. And last up, a Vetiver fragrance I have mentioned numerous times on this channel. Favorite of mine, great price, can't go wrong with it. Guerlain Vetiver. It has tobacco, bergamot, lemon, nutmeg, oak moss, and vetiver. That's some of the notes in the fragrance. And actually, if you look up the note breakdown for this fragrance, it's pretty hefty. There's a lot going on in there. This one, of all the fragrances that I've featured, this one to me is the one that would be easiest to pull off in formal type situations. Gentlemanly, classic, refined, sophisticated, all that stuff, yeah, but with a nice masculine edge. It doesn't come across smelling dated to me. It's one of the better vetiver fragrances that you can get, and you can get it at a huge discount from FragranceNet, FragranceX, or any of those other discounters out there. And this is another one that I have multiple bottles of. It's so inexpensive that over the years when they changed the bottle types, I picked up another one. So I have, I think off the top of my head, 3 different bottle types of Guerlain Vetiver. I have this one, the one that came before it, and the one that came before that. Almost in any time type of fragrance for me, though, in high heat, maybe dial it back or reach for something else. It does, after all, have tobacco as one of the main notes in the scent. It's not one of those extremely effervescent, citrusy, clean sort of vetivers. It does have a touch of that with the lemon and the bergamot, but this one has a lot of depth and richness to it as well. And that's gonna wrap up this list of 10 cheap fragrances that I would keep for life, if I could pick only 10. It does come with a caveat though, that if you catch me on a different day, I might switch one of these out for a different cheapie, depends on what mood I'm in, but as of when I'm filming, I'm in this kind of mood. All right guys, that's gonna do it for me. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Thanks for all your support. Stay safe out there. I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys.